Do you ever feel like you're struggling to get your grip right? Grips, we know sometimes for some people when they try and change their grip, can feel really awkward, really difficult, and it's almost as if you have no control sometimes. Do you ever have that experience when you set up to the golf ball, you think, right, let me go through it carefully, I've got my grip meticulously in the right place. You set up to the golf ball, you're about to swing and your hands change position. It's as if somebody else has got hold of them. Your hands have become possessed and they just suddenly do their own thing. Do you ever feel that way? It can be very frustrating. I know I've had that, and I think just about every golfer has. So I've had to work really hard to try and keep my grip in a good place, and when I'm working on it, to make sure I know I'm doing it properly. I'd like to share an analogy with you here, a way of doing it, which I think you'll find very, very useful. So let's first of all just take it to something a little bit more everyday, if you like, everyday life that we can do. So let me just bring this up here a fraction more. You can see the top of this head cover here. I'm going to use that as an object, and I'm going to, for the moment, because then you can do this at home. Imagine I'm going to turn the golf club this way, and imagine it's a hammer and a nail that I'm going to hit here. Now, my left hand for me is my top hand, my golf swing. If I was to put that, in fact I'm going to use the actual golf grip here, if I was to put that very much underneath to the side, what we would traditionally call a weak grip in golf, if I was to do that and then hammer here, it wouldn't feel very nice on my wrist, okay? It would feel like it's straining my wrist. The natural place for me to hold the hammer would be to actually turn and put my fleshy heel pad here on top of the handle. In that position there, that would feel a lot easier to control the hammer and to go up and down, okay, in that position there, because now my wrist is much stronger. The wrist joint is more under control and can work in a much more effective way. So just using that simple analogy can be very effective. Now, let's take that a step further, because actually, if I go and hold the golf club, some of you may have seen in Ben Hogan's Modern Fundamentals, he shows a great image of the forefinger acting as a hook, no other fingers involved, and just that fleshy pad underneath the thumb, the heel pad there, supporting the club. And the club can stay balanced in that position, in a very square position there. The key part is that it's going under, let's get in here close so you can see, it's going under, I'm going to come see if we can get a better view, under that heel pad there. That's the bit we want to get it under. Not the thumb pad, be careful, not the thumb pad, underneath the heel pad there. If we can get it under there, that's the key bit. Now, why is that the key bit? We'll go back to my analogy of hitting the nail and using the hammer. When it's under there, now I'll close my fingers. If I now let that club drop down slowly, what will happen is the wrist will start to close. And as it closes, it controls the club. So that club's now under control. You can see that club will only drop down so far, okay, because it's now beginning to pull, but in a nice way, on the top of my wrist there, on top of my hand. If I was to go to the weak position here that I showed before, and now let the club drop down, actually that's now going to pull my wrist in an awkward way, and it keeps going. In fact, the club will want to eventually slide out of my hand. If I go the other way here, and put the hand too strong and drop it down again, it's actually, you can see what it's doing to the wrist, it's turning the wrist in this way, and the club actually goes on an arc over here. So the only place where the club will fall down in a controlled manner and fall down straight is when it's actually under that heel pad correctly. You can see now the club wants to go down dead straight, it's beginning to control, it's locking up at that point, it's under control. The wrist joint is closing down, it's keeping that golf club under control. So if you, and what I would say to you is that the top hand of the club tends to be the one that has the greatest influence. So whether you're right-handed or left-handed, whatever your top hand is, if you can get that into a good neutral place, you tend to find that the bottom hand will fit in much better anyway. So I give a lot of time to getting that right hand, the top hand, sorry, in a correct place. I give a lot of time to making sure that that top hand is in the best place. And that is a simple way of doing it. So remember the hammer analogy. You wouldn't hammer it with your hand off the side or too far turned over. You would probably just put it right underneath that heel pad there again. From there, you would feel like, yeah, actually I've got nice control over that hammer, and I can just let that hammer come up and down onto my now, my object. Let's take the same thing with the golf swing. We can use the Ben Hogan analogy, the hook underneath that heel pad there, close the fingers, and if it's under that heel pad nicely, as you drop it down, it will stay straight and it will just control. If you've got it too weak, it will drop down and it will start to fall out and it will hurt the wrist most probably. Go too far the other way and drop it down, again it will bend the wrist too much and the club will come off at a different angle. So it's a really simple way, just take your time with it, it's a very simple way to get the hand in the right position. Once you've got that top hand in the right place, as I said, the lower hand tends to fit in better, then go ahead and hit some shots. Now, one final thing, when you're making a grip change, I would suggest start off with very, very short shots to begin with, okay? Don't try and hit too far. Get used to it, just build up very, very gradually, okay? Once you've start off with chip shots, pitch shots, and then eventually go into a full swing. That will give you a chance to get used to that new hand position, because we know that when we alter our hand position, it doesn't end there. It starts to change how the club face feels in the swing. It may have other influences and you may start to notice other changes. Well, you want to get used to that. So again, just start off very, very small, little shots, and then gradually build up from there. One final thing, do take your hands off after each shot and reapply them, okay? If you leave them on and drag another ball and drag another ball and keep them, they will be moving and you won't notice it because they will move very fractionally between shots, and before you know it, you'll be practicing with your old grip again, and of course that's just a waste of time. We want to make sure that we practice mindfully to make sure that the practice is quality and we actually get a change. So I hope that's useful for your grip. If you've had experiences like me in the past where your hands seem to be possessed and doing their own thing, this, I can assure you, going through this will help get your hands in a great position, and that is one basic that can then lead to many other powerful changes in your golf swing. Good luck.